I turned out the lights to blow out the birthday candles, and they went out by themselves. And then the birthday table started rattling around.
We are used to scary and supernatural stories about a man who then cannot prove that he saw incomprehensible and creepy. But what about when a whole family at a party and numerous relatives witnessed a mystical event? Today is just such a story.
I never thought that I myself would witness something mystical and paranormal. Not only that, but my mother, father, sister, and a large number of relatives were eyewitnesses to the event. That night I was celebrating my birthday. I'm not going to write how old I was, all the years that are mine. But that's not the point. And the point is that the holiday was the most eerie and mystical at which I was able to be. Everything started as usual. Presents, congratulations, and various wishes. There were a lot of guests, mostly family, our relatives, mom and dad, and my sister the youngest. We gathered closer to evening, and while the holiday was nearing its gruesome finale, it got dark outside the window. Of course, by that time everyone was a little tipsy, but all within the bounds of propriety. And my mom doesn't drink at all. I'm not much of a drinker myself, and that night I drank only lemonade. And so went our merry feast, until it was time for cake. The lights went out in the room, accompanied by applause and shouts. My mother brought out a gorgeous, big cake covered with lighted candles. There were a lot of them, unfortunately for me. As I remember now, the candles burned very brightly. It even seemed too bright to me. In the room there were huge shadows on the walls on the white wallpaper, red glares that turned the faces of the guests into grotesque masks. And almost everyone says something funny. The man even whistles loudly with emotion. And in the midst of all the festive hubbub, my mother carefully places a beautiful cake on the table, in front of me, and asks me to make a wish. Of course, made a wish, as it should be a wish, and just started to bend my head to the cake to blow out the candles, as they extinguished on their own. It was as if someone had blown them out for me with a powerful, single exhalation. I thought I even heard the terrible breathing. Maybe I was just imagining it, though. The room was plunged into darkness, but one of the guests had the good sense to turn on the light. Our merrymaking came to an immediate halt. Everyone saw that I did not blow out the candles myself. As the light came on, I saw confusion and consternation on their faces. But this was only the beginning, because our holiday table suddenly began to rattle. It started jerking, as if someone tried to lift it from underneath. Plates clinked, glasses and wine glasses tipped over with a crashing sound. Relatives shouted frightened. I'm confused, stand in the middle of this chaos, and tears come to my eyes from fear and resentment for ruining the holiday. I cannot help it. And the table continues to rampage, and then one part of it from the floor, and then another, covered with our family tablecloth to the floor, and that under the table is not visible, unfortunately, but perhaps fortunately. I don't know how long such a performance lasted. It seemed a long time to me, but my mom said later that it was all within a few minutes. The table shuddered once more, throwing off the last of the plates, and then froze. And we stood quietly around it. By the way, there were a lot of us, but we didn't immediately dare lift the tablecloth and look. Finally, my father grabbed the tablecloth, and with a jerk pulled it down, throwing the rest of the dishes on the floor. We were expecting to see a ghost under the table, or maybe a hairy little devil with a tail. We were ready for anything. But no one was there. If it hadn't been for the broken dishes around us, and the relatives who had seen what I had seen, I don't think it's possible to explain clearly to anyone what happened here. After this, the guests left quietly and quickly, leaving our family to pick up the pieces from the floor, and to think about what had happened in the house. I saw that my parents and sister were very worried. I didn't understand what was causing it either. Then again, after that day no such events occurred in the house again. My sister and I were racking our brains for a long time, reading all kinds of articles and watching videos. And then it suddenly dawned on me. I remembered one unpleasant incident that happened just before my birthday. My mother and I came home from the store, with a trunk full of groceries. I almost parked in front of the driveway, and began to unload the products. I don't know why, but my neighbor always put her car in that spot. She was horrible and mean, always rude and swore at everyone. Though she looked like an ordinary woman of about 30, with a pretty face. That evening, she came right behind us, demanding that we immediately remove their car. She allegedly wants to quickly get to her place. Mom explains that they say now we'll get the bags out, and her daughter will move the car. And the neighbor insists she's not going to wait until we unload all their bags. But then I was outraged, because there were only free spaces at the end of the yard, and I wasn't going to run out of there with my bags for the queen. I said that I would not move the car at all, because the seats are shared, and all in that vein. As a result, left my car, and the neighbor before leaving, evil eyes glared at me black, and promised that my holiday will not be fun. And so it happened. Now I do not know what to think of her. Or it was a coincidence. Subscribe to the channel. There will be many more interesting things.